So if your ad is very slightly northwest, you will end up very slightly southeast. Make sure the tethers change animation to their stretched form, or you will die here when they execute. Then, a tower player will come to you and drop a tower near you. After your beam goes off, you go and stand in it. For tower players, light towers will need to go and find a dark tether, and dark towers will need to go and find a light tether, and you will drop your tower near them. To dictate who goes where easily, DPS look north clockwise to find the originating point of the first tether they can solve, and follow that tether to the tethered player. For supports, we did the exact same thing, but you start west and look counterclockwise. Then you drop your towers near those players and move away. Lastly, all 8 players need to check north, as 2 ads will dash and shoot line AoEs through the middle of the room after this mechanic resolves, so avoid them as necessary. There will always be 2 safe columns. Another raid wide follows all of this, and the cast of Glaucopius, which is a tank buster. This buster hits twice and applies a vuln both times, so you can either invuln it or do 2 tank swaps to resolve it correctly with cooldowns. Super Chain Theory 1 is the next major mechanic of the encounter. You're going to see a bunch of shapes appear on the arena. These shapes are going to be chained to blue balls, and when they meet, they will execute the mechanic. Let's quickly cover which each individual one does first. Orbs are chariots, or out. Donuts are dynamos, or in. Purple 4-pronged stars are pair mechanics, and orangish stars are proteans or spreads. The first shape to spawn will always be chained twice, with either an in or an out, as well as protean or pairs. I recommend doing these spreads and pairs boss relative for this mechanic, with melee and tanks at the front, and healers and ranged at the back. Next to your left and right will be 2 single chained balls. Find the one with a dynamo or donut AoE and head towards it. Then lastly, there will be another ball chained by both a donut and an out ball in a random order, so you must execute the in-out or the out-in. To add further complexity to this mechanic, every player will get a debuff. 2 players will get a dark debuff with a person icon, another 2 will get a light debuff with a person icon. 1 player will get a light tower that you've seen before, and another player will get a dark tower, which you've also seen before. Lastly, the 2 remaining players will have a dark and a light beam debuff, and will eventually be the recipients of line AoEs targeting them from the boss. The light line AoE will need 3 dark players to soak with them, and vice versa for the dark line AoE. These mechanics resolve during the second orb chains, which is the fixed donut, so as the group moves into the safe spot, you need to split into 2 groups of 4. The dark debuff will be on the left side facing the boss with the 3 lights, and the light debuff will be on the right side with the 3 darks. Lastly, just after the final out and in resolves, the 2 towers will drop. We had those players take a few steps inside the boss hitbox to drop their towers, on the sides where they had initially taken their stacks. Then, the players that were initially targeted by the stack beams can step in to take the towers and cleanse them. Lastly, the remaining 4 players can spread, as each will take a small circle AoE around themselves. This is role based as well, so the 4 spread should always be all 4 supports or all 4 DPS. All of this is followed by another Trinity of Souls and the cast of either Apodialogos or Peridialogos. Peridialogos is a group stack on the furthest target and a 2-man buster applying a dot on the closest. Apodialogos is the opposite, so you either need to have the group under the boss and the tanks outside the hitbox, or the opposite of that. I remember it very simply as P equals party out. That's really simple and easy to remember. This is of line AoEs targeting them from the boss. The light line AoE will need 3 dark players to soak with them, and vice versa for the dark line AoE. These mechanics resolve during the second orb chains, which is the fixed donut, So as the group moves into the safe spot, you need to split into 2 groups of 4. The dark debuff will be on the left side facing the buffs with the 3 lights, and the light debuff will be on the right side with the 3 darks. Lastly, just after the final out and in resolves, the 2 towers will drop. We had those players take a few steps inside the boss hitbox to drop their towers, on the sides where they had initially taken their stacks. Then, the players that were initially targeted by the stack beams can step in to take the towers and cleanse them. Lastly, the remaining 4 players can spread, as each will take a small circle area around themselves. This is role based as well, so the 4 spread should always be all 4 supports or all 4 DPS. All of this is followed by another Trinity of Souls and the cast of either Apodiac. Hello! My name is Rinon and welcome to my guide for the first phase of p12s, the final turn of Anabasio Savage. This door boss has a number of fast, execution heavy checks, but I think it's an exceptionally fun fight with interesting mechanics. As a little note, this guide was made week 1 using my and other groups' clear experience and uses the best strats we had at the time. If easier or superior strategies come to prominence in the coming weeks, you will see updates in the video description covering them. Let's get into it. On the Soul is the first cast bar you'll see, which is a raid-wide damage that needs some mitigation, and then Athena will cast Paradigma for the first time. 4 yellow crystals will spawn, which will shortly teleport to one of the sides of the arena near the north or south side at random. Split your raid into 2 light parties, one will go north and the other one will go south. The adds are going to shoot beams at the 4 closest players to them, giving them a magic volt, and a handful of seconds later they're going to do it again. To solve this mechanic, the players on the same north or south side of the arena as the adds need to spread vertically on their half in order to bait the 4 beams. Then they will run through to the other side of the room, and the other light party will come through and spread in the same positions to take their place and bait the second set of beams. You can also utilize double tank invulns on this mechanic to prevent the rest of the party needing to deal with it. Simultaneously to this, the boss will telegraph Trinity of Souls. You need to watch her wings as they light up one after another for a total of 3 times. The boss will then cleave in order the halves of the arena where her wings were lit up, so avoid as needed. There is one twist here compared to normal though. If the first wing to light up is at the bottom, then the boss will flip 180 degrees between cleaves,